Hello and welcome to the Life They Live podcast. I'm the host, Nina, and in each episode, I have a conversation with a guest about one of their passions or an experience that marked their life. In this episode, Ysée Lienart will talk about her passion, which is theater. Ysée is a theater student and is currently working on a new project. Hello, Ysée.
Hello,
How are you doing?
fine and you, Nina?
Yeah, good, thank you. So, Ysée, I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself in a few seconds, but before, I like to always explain how I know the guest. So, Ysée and I have actually known each other for a long time. I don't know how many years, probably like 10, more than 10, I would say even. I don't know if you remember the year. It
Yeah,
was
maybe
probably,
11.
yeah, 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 because Ysée and I both lived in Mexico, and I remember you were the one of the first person I met when I arrived in Mexico. So it was quite a long time ago, and it's very interesting now to do this episode with you because I also saw how you became more and more interested with theater. So it's nice to talk about it with you today. So could you introduce yourself? So maybe say where you're from, how old you are, anything you want to say.
Yes, so I'm Ysée, I'm 21 years old, and I'm French, but I lived 7 years in Mexico. Well, um, 3 years in Guadalajara and 3 years and a half in Mexico. And then I came back to France, to Paris, and I stayed 5 years before to go back again to Indonesia, and I lived there 1 year before to come back again to Paris, and there I started my studies. That's why I came back, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about theater, which is your passion. Could you tell us about your first experiences, if I may say, in the world of theater? Do you remember your first theater experience? For example, the first play you saw, the first, I don't know, book you read, the first role you played, anything basically that shows how you started to be in that theater world?
Yes, I remember the first time I met the theater. I was in primary school, and a drama teacher came to our class to make us play La Cigale et la Fourmi de
Mm-hmm.
Jean de La Fontaine. And so I don't remember how did we play it, but I remember that I felt like something, I was really good at that place at that moment, and I felt really free, and I
Okay.
was a kid quite shy,
Mm-hmm.
and there I just didn't felt my shy with other people, and I was like, oh well, I like it. And then I stopped during few years, and I just, like, 4 years, and I was looking my brother in a class, in a drama class, and I was like, wow, that's wonderful, I want to do it too. And he stopped and I started, and I was like, oh, we could have done it together, but well, he just didn't want to continue, and so I continued, and I never stopped because it became like, I want to say a necessity, but it's maybe too much. But I really was waiting for my drama class, and I was just, okay, I want to do this more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do it like really, not just to enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't like an just an activity after school, but it was really something you wanted to
Yeah.
do outside of school also. And you said your first experience was like during school that you had a drama teacher. Did you already know when you had that first experience that you were gonna love theater, or did it go kind of slowly?
It was quite a dilemma
Mm-hmm.
for me because I was quite shy, and I liked that. And so I was, do I really want to do that? Am I capable or not? And that's why I waited so much time. And actually, we studied theater, but like the literature at school, and I didn't like it. I really didn't like French classes, and I didn't like to read. Now I do like, but before I didn't. I didn't like how we
Yeah, like how you approached the
uh-huh.
theater maybe.
But but I really like the practice.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you actually, what is the thing you like the most about theater? I think you already answered it a little when you said that it's good maybe for people who are shy, and it's something that you hear quite a lot. Like I know me in the past, I've heard also that theater is nice for people who want to practice maybe speaking skills or who are a bit shy. So you talked about that aspect. Could you tell us maybe also what you, it's a simple question, but what you like about theater?
I like a lot of things about theater. That's one of the things that I like, the fact that it can be a lot of things really different. We can talk about every subject, every topic, and we can do it really differently, and that's quite wonderful. When I make the thing that maybe I like or I even love most is the like there's something close to transcendence. And when I finish acting, I'm like, what happened? I don't even remember. And you are okay, I don't know what I did, but you just go out and people tell you, oh wow, it was wonderful, and you say, okay, I don't know what it was, but if they say it, like the public is always right. If you want to tell them something and they say no, I didn't saw that, but something else, well, he cannot be wrong.
It must be interesting the feeling that you have when you play, and that afterwards, like you were saying, the public comes to you and tells you, oh, I felt this and this, and then you're like, oh, but that's not really what I was thinking about. And then it must be interesting to see how when you play, then people might perceive things differently. And I think that's really interesting. I mean, I'm not an expert on theater, but from what I understand, that's kind of what you were trying to say. And I guess then also you probably think a lot about maybe your plays and your characters and what the public says. Is that also part of what you like in theater?
Yeah, it's quite something that takes time. When you work, like you're doing okay, that's what would do the character, and sometimes just it leads you somewhere else and you're like, okay, I didn't saw that, but the character is also that and also that. And I like each time it's not just a repetition like this and just doing the same thing you did last time. Just you go each time deeper. It's quite like an archaeologist looking
Hmm.
for something which is buried, and it's just a discovery. Even when a play is already played in front of public, you always are looking for more things and still like an explorer, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. I didn't really think about this before. And also, we're going to talk about your studies because you actually study theater right now. But before, I would like to ask you why theater and not why, like, for example, acting at the cinema? Because I'm guessing that's probably a question you might have had in the past. Why did you choose to continue theater and maybe not go into acting more like for movies or stuff like that?
Actually, I didn't renounce to cinema,
Hmm.
but at first I always said like I want to do theater more because there's something I think more human. What I also really like in theater, it's you're always exchanging with people, and at cinema, of course, you have some people in front of you. There is the director and all people, the script, and there's a lot of people, but there's the camera that is an object between you and the public. And just in theater, yes, it's more like dangerous, but you have like different sensation because you only can do it once and it's over. and if you miss something, you have to continue. And there's something like more maybe like an athlete that cannot just say, okay, I stop and I start again. um, so that's why I choose theater, because of that proximity with the public.
Mhm.
But I had one or two experiences with cinema, and it's really different. And I also like it, but a little bit less.
Okay, yeah, that's a interesting explanation. And in terms of your studies, because a lot of young people, when they're in high school or when they want to figure out what they want to do later in life, if they want to go to university or not go to university, what work they want to do, it's always like a stressful time. I think when you're like, I don't know, 17, 18, or even younger or older. How did you experience that thinking process of not knowing where you want to go? And did you know for sure you wanted to go into theater, or were you hesitant? How did it go?
I was quite sure that I wanted to do theater, but indeed it's like not an easy way or a classic way, because my family is not like, my two parents are not in arts. Even if they accepted, it was like, are you sure you want to do that? And to me it was quite difficult at first to say, okay, I want to do that. But once I tell them, it was like, yes, that's what I want to do. I was like thinking, what could I do? And I was really afraid to be annoyed. When I was at school, it was like I was that kid at the back of the class and just drawing, listening to the teacher, and I wasn't a bad kid, or even I had good grades, but I was always drawing and dreaming and looking at the window, and so I cannot do anything that it's not like me. So something where my body is involved, something where my creativity is also involved. But I did hesitate at first, because I also like to draw and to paint and do more like graphic arts. And so I was maybe theater, it's maybe more unsure than what can provide graphic arts studies, because
Yeah.
there are some jobs, where you can work after in companies. And so finally I said, like, if I want to work really in theater, I cannot do it like of time. So
Mm.
I just start, and after I was like, I cannot do anything else, and I wanted more and more and more, because I started at university, and so it was a lot of theory, and I was in a conservatoire, but I had like 6 hours of practice at the week, and I want more, it's not enough. And I had 20 hours of theory, and then I went to the next level in the conservatory, and that's where I'm now. It's my second year, so I was
Mm.
there last year, and last year I finished my licence, my
Which is like the
stage
bachelor. Yeah.
in theater at the university, and then I stopped university right now, and I continue the conservatory, and I just do practice. And the theory, I go look for it, but by myself, like with books. I also go for what I want, and not just doing essays because a teacher asks me for it, but I just go for what I want, what I
Yeah.
need, and it has more sense to me.
Sometimes I think even if, for example, you want to read a book, if you decide you want to read a book, it's going to be different than if the teacher assigns you to read the book and tells you, okay, you have to write an essay on that book. So I understand what you mean, and uh, yeah, I also understand that sometimes it can be a bit frustrating. Maybe if you want to have more practice, but then you're like kind of stuck in the theory, or you have to do a lot of theory. So yeah, it's interesting also to know a little bit how you can study theater, because maybe a lot of people don't really know what it's like, or like what do you do basically if you decide that you want to work in the theater field? People might wonder, okay, so what's the first step? You know, what do I do? In your case, for example, you were saying that you were at the conservatory, so like conservatoire, and that you also did like a bachelor. Is that kind of like the, if I may say, like the, I don't want to use the word normal, but kind of like the path that most people follow when they want to do theater? Do you know a little bit like what are the options?
It depends because there's like theater schools, and there you have like more practice, and you have the private schools that you pay a lot. The most famous is Cours Florent in France, but it's quite Cours Florent. You can have really good classes, like you can have really bad classes, and because also you have groups of 30 people, and sometimes everyone is not involved as you, and it can be quite frustrating. At least is what I heard from friends who went there. So I didn't do a private school because to me it was important to stay in public, because we have in France a big separation between private and public theater, and to me theater must be public, and you
Mm-hmm.
cannot just monetize it. And so there was that possibility that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't took. I made indeed a bachelor of theater. It was quite like an agreement with my parents, because they say, okay, you do that, but you have to have a bachelor because it can be useful. And I was like, I don't think that in theater job it's something really important. But finally, one of my teachers said that to teach the theater, she had a bachelor, and it permits her to win some time to can be a teacher. So I said, okay, why not? And and actually, it allowed me to have a good theory about theater, and so to know also some authors, and it's really important too. Right now I'm in a conservatory which is regional, and I want to pass to a national school. And so the theory and the knowledge about theater and history, it's one of the criteria to can enter to that school. So it's good that I made that bachelor, and I knew some people too, because that job is really about people that you met.
Yeah, it's good to make contacts also, I guess
Yeah,
that's why you're
yeah,
trying to do
exactly.
it. Mm-hmm. So now we talked a bit about the theory in your studies and doing the bachelor, but when we prepared this episode, you also talked to me about the practical projects, I guess, if we can call them like that you do outside of your studies. So they're not, if I understand, they're not linked to your studies. They're like opportunities you have outside. So it relates to what you were saying about the contacts, that it's important to know people so that you might be invited to participate in a project. Could you maybe explain a little bit what those projects are? Could you explain maybe what are the major differences between working as a professional compared to working as an amateur?
Yes, like just literally, it's amateur is just you're not paid, and
Mm-hmm.
professional you are paid. But so I have an experience that it's quite funny, because the I made two projects, one which was professional because we were supposed to be paid, and one which was amateur because we didn't we were not paid. But the amateur one, it was like in a big theater, but we were amateurs, the participant, the actors. But the other, it was like just some friends who said, okay, we were going to make a project. A friend just wrote a piece, and he wanted to us to play it. And so we play it in a small festival, and so we get paid. But but it was like much smaller than the other project where I was amateur. But with my two projects, it was like the small one, it was because of the people I met in the conservatory, the big one in the big theater with the professional director. I just saw that project in which it was quite a coincidence. I was at the university, and there was just an offer to participate to that performance, and so it was just some question to answer, and there was a video to send, and quite horrible because I made a video and I was like going to home to make to just put it in my computer, and my phone was dropped, and so I was like, no, my video, and it was impossible to
Get it back.
to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And because I thought that it was in my drive, and no, so well, I had to do it again, and it wasn't really good, but well, I get choose, so it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really good experience, and we were 40 people of my age, so between 18 and 22, something like this. And in fact, one of them is working with me actually in a project that I'm leading.
Good. So we're doing a nice transition because I was about to ask you some questions about your project. So now you can of course say more about it, but just to introduce it a little bit, you're doing a project for school. So you're doing your own project. And this time you're not an actor, but you're actually a director. You're directing the project. So I think it's really interesting, and I have a lot of questions to ask about that. Um, Before maybe I start with too many questions, you can tell us just simply what the project is so that it gives us a bit of context.
Yes, it's my exam of from the conservatory, and so I have different parts of the exam, and one of them is to make a project of 45 minutes maximum. So I can take a piece who already exists and make what I want to do, but just in 45 minutes. But I choose to write it, or at least to experiment something I don't know. And so it's really experience and only that. But I choose, when I choose my actress, I told them like it's only experience and like more a laboratory. And so that friend who was with me, we in the project we made in the theater, the big theater, um, he wrote, I write, but just a little bit. And so I was like, I'm not ready to write a whole piece. So I asked him, and I proposed him the subject, and it's about dreams and utopia, and the moment when a child like becomes an adult. Well, it's a period, of course, but it's about that, and of course it's the moment who corresponds to us, because we are all between um, 20 and 27 years old. So it's quite a period when we're looking who do we want to be like adults. And so he was, yes, that topic really talks to me. So he was just okay to do that work, and the actress too. And so we just go to that experience together. It's
Yeah.
I really talk about it like an experience, because we're experiencing what we call in French écriture de plateau. So it's I don't know the word in English, but it's like you don't have a piece already written and you just learn the text like this and you play it, but you work with improvisations about a topic, and then the director and the author, well, somebody who writes, is going to take that material, and then the author is going to write a new text. So actually it's hard to talk about an author, because the actors are themselves the authors of that text too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting method. I didn't know about it before you explained to me what it is. But it's really not just improvisation, it's like the actor improvising, and then the director or the person writing the text gets inspiration basically from that improvisation, if I understand correctly, and then writes the text according to the improvisation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Some parts can be exactly what the actors said during the improvisation if
Mm-hmm.
it has like his place, but it can also just be inspiration indeed.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's cool. So now just to summarize everything. So you're working on your own project. You have to make a play of 45 minutes. You're using Écriture de plateau. So we looked it up. We don't know what it is in English, what is the translation, but it's the method with the improvisation that we just talked about. And you're directing this play. So now you're still in the beginning, right? You haven't started actually writing the play, or did you already start?
Well, we started the process with the improvisations
Mm-hmm.
since October
Okay.
or maybe more December because of the situation. Sometimes we couldn't see each other, so we started that work um, without
Being
seeing us.
together. Mm-hmm.
So we started to talk a lot about the topic, and also so I have three actors and to play one character, and it's like the process of that character with all its dreams and utopias and the confrontation with the reality too. And so it was like why that why that character would have three bodies, and we talked a lot about that. And and so that friend who wrote too, and one of the actresses proposed some scenes, and so we have some text, but I think it's not the text we are going to keep at the end. And actually right now it's like the moment we're really in the moment of the writing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the one who is taking the big part. I give some small parts, or I'm like directing where we can go, but it's that friend who's named Clément Pradillon who is writing the piece.
Okay. And so you told me then that piece should be ready by June, is that it? So you should perform the play
Yes,
in June? Mm-hmm.
yes. The actually we have a date really since the beginning. We have like it's the 23rd June, and so I said since the beginning, okay, in March we have to finish the text, and how what do we do with that text? Yeah, we're right now writing the text.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think the topic is very interesting, so I can't wait to hear more about it. And to end with that project, so I think it would be interesting if you can tell us what, I mean, of course, we can imagine what the differences are, but how does it feel like to work now as a director? Because in the past, you've mostly been an actor, and that directing is new to you.
Actually, I already directed two small pieces in
Okay.
my conservatory, and I quite liked it, but it's a lot of stress because you lead everything, so you have to be perfect in organization. You have to show that you know what to do to don't afraid your actors.
Mm-hmm.
But it was quite different because I had like a text, but that project is different because that's my choice from A to Z, and I choose everything. Just I have one thing to respect, and it's the time. But I quite like that artistic freedom. But yeah, you also have to be sure of each choice you make. But I quite like it. What I most like is the fact of directing the actors, because it's like, okay, do you have your intention? Are you sure of that? And you're just helping the actor to found his way. You're not like, okay, I know it, you don't know it. Yeah, it's really interesting to see it from the outside, because when you are acting, sometimes of course you feel when you're in the right intention, and if you're at the good place.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're acting, you cannot be totally looking at you playing, because you cannot look at you from the outside. You have to let your instinct speak more than your
Mm-hmm.
head. And so it's quite interesting to see it from the outside, and it's quite powerful too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it can also help you as an actor then, because if you experience what it's like to be the director of a play and help actors, like you were saying, it's not a command, but it's more like helping, then it might also help you as an actor to know from your experience what you can change, or maybe yeah, just learn from that experience. So it's very interesting, I think, to do a bit of everything, like you were saying, like trying acting and then being a director, because it's very different at the end. So that's very nice. Great. So now, to finish this episode, I think it will be interesting to talk about your vision in theater. So you do have a particular vision, and I think it would be very interesting if you want to talk about that. So it's particularly about the relation between the actors and the public. Do you want to explain what it is?
Yeah, well, there's like the theater in the big theaters, and to be famous and to be the great actor or the great director, and something about fame. There's also other ways to do it. For example, today I won't say that, but when I started theater before to begin my studies, I said I want to do humanitarian theater, like to do it in places with people who can just be refugees of war or something like this. Today, it's not what I'm doing. Maybe it would continue to interest me, but it's like something I quite forgotten. I remember it some weeks before,
Mhm.
but it exists actually, and there's also some people who go to make theater in hospital with people who are just dying, and it's just have some joy. And I found that quite interesting to go to see the public who uh, don't don't come, or because they cannot, or just because they don't have money, or to people who don't know theater too because they have some cliches or some just ignorance because they never had the occasion.
Mhm.
And even if just 90% of the people you're playing for are just not interested, but maybe just 10% or even less, if there's only one person who for who it can just change life, it's just wonderful. That's the public I want to look for. And no, well, of course it could be really good, and I think I would enjoy to sometimes, well, be in a big production and to go to the big theaters with a history really important. But I also want, and I prefer even to go with people really, um, just more human, or human in the sense of not people who know what theater is and how it has to be, but
Mhm.
more in they feel something and they see something, they feel it and feel it like
Mhm.
more simply, and not just because they learn that it has to be like this, with people who are less maybe educated too, because it's in those big theaters there's a public really um, precise who is really educated and who knows culture one way. And I think that it's really more vast
Mhm.
than that. That that's more the theater I want to do, or I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I think if we want to summarize this, we could say maybe that you want theater to be accessible to anyone and not just like a niche of people, like a group of people that is like, you don't want just like experts of theater to watch your plays, but also maybe people that don't know anything about theater, and to and you also want to look for a public that's not purposefully coming to see theater and just is looking at a play. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting message that you just shared. And yeah, I hope you will have the opportunity to do then what you like and what you want to do. And it's nice also to see the different perspectives that you were mentioning, that in theater you can play maybe for big productions theater in big theaters that have an important history, like you were saying, or there's also like humanitarian theater, or you can do theater in schools and hospitals. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about those different experiences that you can have. So I guess it's also a mixed overall, right? That you don't want to do only one thing, but just do a bit of everything.
Yes, I think that they are all really interesting, but if I had to choose one, I would choose indeed some a kind of theater that is more universal.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting that in this episode we talked about many different aspects of theater. So first we started really with your passion and how you discovered theater, and then more about like the studies that you can do. Um, because maybe some people are listening to this episode and want to do theater, but they don't really know where to start or what to do. And then also the differences between being an actor or being a director, as well as your vision. I think it was very like we had a very complete view of theater. So thank you very much for joining me today on this episode and talk about your passion. I think it was very interesting. And maybe I don't know if you have a last word that you would like to say to people who like theater but don't know if they should follow that path and don't know if they should become an actor.
Yes, I think that, well, it depends of what you want to do, but if you want to have this like for yourself, you have to do it, because if that's what you want to do, you just go for it. And if that's what you want to do for life, like just your job and everything, that's the same. Even, well, it depends of people, but I really think that if you want to do one thing, like you have only one life, and just try, and you will see. If it's not that, you won't be lost, and you learn a lot about, well, about that art, of course, but even about yourself. And even if after you finally say, okay, that's not what I want to do, at least you will have that bag with you,
Mm-hmm.
which will help you. If that's really what you want to do, try it, and you will see. And if you fail, just don't give up.
Yeah, I think that's an important message. That not just in terms of theater, but in general to anyone. So for me, it was very interesting to hear more about theater because it's an art that I don't know too well, even though I did have some experiences. But yeah, it makes me want to go watch a play now. Unfortunately, we can't do that because of COVID, but I hope soon we'll be able to watch theater again and go to watch plays. So thank you, Ysée, for joining me on this episode. I hope you had a nice time. I was very happy to do this episode with you. Do you want to share maybe an Instagram account that people can follow if they want to hear more about you?
Yes, thank you very much, Nina. Yes, it's an Instagram in the process of being created, and it's named underscore dot rêve en couleur dot underscore. And so rêve en couleur is REVENCOULEUR.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So it's not created yet, but I'm sure there will be great things on it. Do you want to say quickly what it's about? Because it's not a personal account. It's a account where you're gonna that's gonna be associated to theater, right?
Yes, I'm gonna make an illustration about the text, and I will read that text.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Ysée.
Thank you very much, Nina.
And thank you everyone for listening to this episode. Don't forget to listen to the previous episodes if you haven't yet. And I'll see you soon on another episode. Bye.